You know, I'm going to wait and see what voters think, because the contest will start in about 10 days, and we'll begin to see what voters believe. I just think we have to win. I don't think we can afford another 4 years by the current incumbent. I think that would be absolutely dangerous to our democracy, and I just will do whatever I can to make sure the Democrats win this time.
I think, are they just cherry picks doing?
The weather is unbelievable.
Isn't it?
Perfect
This
day.
person right here.
Look, we have to be better than the other side because they are highly organized and incredibly well funded, and they have foreign help. So our team has to stand up against voter suppression, deal with the real threat of hacking and the weaponization of stolen materials, counter the false ads and narratives that are on social media that come from inside our country and outside our country, protect our election apparatus. So we have a lot of work to do.
Okay, you're in the shot, all right? Here we go. Everybody in the middle, that's it? Yeah. That's great. That is just great. And then right here. And then one last look.
You know, look, I am so hoping that people will be held accountable for their false statements, for their unfortunate misuse of information, for a culture of insult and attack. And we can't both sides everything. You know, when somebody has made a false statement or there is something that is provable in their record, let it stand on its own, and don't go searching to try to balance it. That leads, unfortunately, to confusion and muddying the waters. So whatever the facts are, that's what I hope will come out. And the experience of a lot of journalists in putting it into context is incredibly important. But you have to be careful because there's just so much information flooding the zone right now, and it's difficult, I think, for many people, let alone voters, to figure out what to believe and what not to believe. Coming into the public eye when I did, and being sort of in the front lines of reactions to the women's movement, of pushback on everything from universal health care to climate change, you name it, that it's in the interests of a lot of the groups in our society to try to silence certain voices. So I think that was aimed at me both personally, but also because I'm part of a larger effort to change the way our country treats all of our fellow Americans, how we lead in the world, and so much else.
Exactly. That's on the owners. It's always good to
do. Yes, we did prefer to have more conservative voices, and they single-handedly said no. Why do you think that is? I think because we live in a toxic, polarizing culture, and when they said it was going to be about her, and I was very clear that it was going to be a fair and balanced film, that the reason why I was seeking their input was to make it so. But, I actually got Newt Gingrich on the phone and said, after he declined in writing, and said, trying to convince him to do it, and he said, I'd rather stick a needle in my eye than do an interview about Hillary Clinton. And I think that speaks volumes of where we are politically.
And I think it's a shame because obviously I've worked with a lot of them, and when I was a senator for 8 years, I worked across the aisle. I sponsored legislation. The Republicans were very helpful on 9/11 and other of the priorities that I pursued. So I think it's unfortunate that we're at a time when that didn't seem to be open to them.
Yeah, let me get out of the middle. Come here tonight. Go in the middle. I get on the outside. Exactly. That's on the owners.
I'm hoping that there will be increasing content that will give people information that they won't otherwise have access to. I saw The Dissident last night, and the story is terrifying and horrible, but it's a story that needs to be told. And the implications of that story about what is happening in our world right now and the unaccountable power of governments and the use of technology to manipulate and unfortunately undermine not just individuals but groups that are trying to speak up for freedom and democracy and rights is so important. So I think looking at the schedule for Sundance, there are so many documentaries that I hope people will pay attention to, and then we'll get wide distribution. It's the best way we have in this world right now to try to convey information that can help people make more sense of the world, make more sense of their politics, and make decisions that are in their actual best interests.